Hello Mum and Dad, today is Friday, though again you knew that, and this week has been interesting. I'm not going to say it's been amazing, but it's not been shite either, so that's always a bonus. I started going back to classes this week and didn't go to all of them. I tried, in fact I went to one on Monday, and then I went to wait in the library instead of coming home because I knew if I came back to the house I wouldn't want to go back out again for the other class when there's nearly 5 hours between them. Unfortunately, I went to wait in the library, I got my book out, did some work. I was sitting on one of the sofas in a quiet part of the library, and I woke up at 8:30 that evening, almost 5 hours after my class had finished. Aren't I a wonderful student? And I missed one yesterday morning too, because I set out, I was on my way, it was in the glorious sunshine, and I started having an asthma attack. I was wearing my big heavy woolen coat, and I had left my inhaler in the other coat, and I started having an asthma attack, and it wasn't one I could just wait at a bus stop and pass off. I had to turn round and come back to the house to come and get them because it was really not good. It took me ages to get home, and by the time I sorted my breathing out it was 10 to 11, I'm not sure. Too late for me to get back to the class because there were only 10 minutes left. I have sent my apologies to my teachers. There's only a few weeks left of classes before the exams anyway. I can't afford to miss any more. I think the reason for this mostly is just because I've been sleeping terribly, and a lack of sleep affects your concentration, in fact, but it's affecting my memory dreadfully. See this, I wanted a bacon butty this morning and I just fancied some barbecue sauce, so I went across the road and I bought some, which is fine. But it turns out I had those exact same thoughts yesterday, and I bought barbecue sauce. And I'm fairly sure I have a third bottle lying around here somewhere that I had forgotten about, because if I bought it twice without realising, surely I could have done it more times as well. And it's irritating. I'm slightly worried I've gone mad again. On a different subject, I, for the first time in my life, have started to feel really like an adult when I bought my first teapot. There's only cold peppermint tea left from a brew I had earlier. Well, several brews actually, it's not a small teapot. And it's strange that this made me feel more like an adult than turning 18 or turning 20 or paying my first lot of bills or rent. No, this, just a teapot, but it's weird. I'm not sure I like it. However, perhaps I'm not quite an adult yet, and that's in some ways comforting and distressing. But I enter a lot of online competitions. I enjoyed them, and in exchange for being sent a few emails, which I can just send to the spam folder if I need to, you can win free stuff. I've won moisturiser samples that way, one of those Quillicactor sheets for the laundry, that Gillette razor I was talking about a while ago, which I really like. Most recently I entered a competition that won me a big box of sweeties. There was more stuff in here when I got it, like a big bag of flying saucers, but they were never going to last long enough for me to film this when they came yesterday. It just made me happy. There's plenty of stuff in there, including several Swizzles lollies, Mum, so expect some of those when I come to visit soon. Well, I say visit, come home soon. I really liked your recommendation of watching that Employable Me programme. I mean, in the first episode I wasn't quite sure what you were getting at, seeing that you saw comparisons to me in there. I was in fact slightly insulted, which I know I shouldn't be, because mental illnesses and conditions such as Tourette's are nothing to be ashamed of. They are an unfortunate problem that many people have to deal with. But I didn't like being compared to them, and that's an issue I have to work out on my own. But then I carried on watching it and I started to see several points you were talking about. I mean, I'm dyspraxic. It's a form of autism. I get that. It's a very mild form, but it's still there, and I have noticed from reading it up, I do have some traits of the more advanced sorts of autism, but not all. I have the highly inflated IQ. I mean, it said in the programme that the average for university graduates was 112 and that for PhD students was 126. My IQ is 167. Very inflated. I'm a very clever person. But I'm rather non-functional in many ways. It's interesting to see this. I saw so much of myself in several of these people, not so much in the people with Tourette's, although a little bit, because I did have phrases when I was younger, when I would say things like banana, just because I had the idea. And even now, I just sometimes laugh because I feel like it. I can't really restrain myself. I just had this desire to laugh. Maybe it's an expression of happiness that I'm feeling, although even when I've been having particular depressive episodes, I'm still doing it and I can't explain it. And then there's always the gestures when I talk and think. It's like I'm conducting an orchestra at times. So I can see some of that, but it's the autism, especially the difficulties I have with understanding people's emotions. I've always joked about being a sociopath, and I have done a test I was confirmed at once, and not just one of those online BuzzFeed tests, but I'm wondering if it might just be more dyspraxia than sociopathy. Having said that, I can wrap people around my fingers when I need to. I dislike putting it in such a negative term, but I am very good at getting people to do what I want when I need to. And I can be incredibly social, so maybe there is some merit to that. But it's only social when I need to be. Say when I went to that job interview at Mackey's, well, for want of a better word, I can do that very, very easily. But I can rarely control it, it's instinctive. Another thing that really caught my attention from it was the fact it again mentions the way autistic people perceive the world. They are overburdened with stimuli, so one of them in the third part of the documentary, who was a big fan of Terry Pratchett actually, and I've noticed that's a trend in the Terry Pratchett fandom and the Discworld groups online. There are a lot of neuroatypical people. He would wear a medieval helmet to block out the sensory overload, to make sure that he couldn't see or hear or smell too much, because it bothers him. And I get that completely, because I've been called a very unobservant person for a very long time, and I can understand why. But there's a reason for it. It's not that I don't see things, it's that I see everything, and it's bright and colourful and it hurts my eyes. I wear sunglasses a hell of a lot. I had to buy a new pair the other day because I broke mine. But there are so many details everywhere, and I have to focus on just one thing to the exclusion of all else sometimes, so that I can focus on anything at all. Does that make any sense? I hope so. I can partially explain this again through the medium of Discworld books. One of my favourites is A Hatful of Sky, the second in the Tiffany Aching series, Tiffany Aching being the trainee witch. And it's a remarkable series, and this is an excellent book. And it features a creature known as the Hiver, which is a being of consciousness that has existed for as long as the universe has existed. And it is constantly looking for mortal bodies to possess so that it can shut out the world. I mean, one of my favourite quotes of all time that I've used to inspire many of my own pieces of writing, one which I've shared on my blog and I intend to share here in spoken form soon enough, but it's a wonderful quote. It goes a little like this. Do you know what it feels like to be aware of every star, every blade of grass? Yes, you do. You call it opening your eyes again. But you do it for a moment. We have done it for eternity. No sleep, no rest, just endless experience, endless awareness of everything, all the time. How we envy you. Envy you! Lucky humans who can close your minds to the endless deeps of space. You have this thing you call boredom. That is the rarest talent in the universe. We heard a song, it went twinkle, twinkle, little star. What power, what tremendous power. You can take 1,000,000,000 trillion tons of flaming matter, a furnace of unimaginable strength, and turn it into a little song for children. You build little worlds, little stories, little shells around your minds, and that keeps infinity at bay and allows you to wake up in the morning without screaming. My eyes twitching there, that doesn't help with the whole I'm not crazy defence. It's a quote I have loved for a long time, but I've not read that book since I was diagnosed with dyspraxia and, well, the form of autism. So I've not given it any thought. I mean, I've read the quote a few times since then, yes, but not really given it as much thought as I perhaps could have done. But it seems to me to be what it's like for someone with autism, because sometimes everyone has one of those moments where they're hyper aware of everything around them. But having that all the time, it's like it's burning into your brain, and it's maddening. Plus there's the added thing where, as well as that, I see words all the time, not just written down on paper or things like that. You know, how to put this? Think Jarvis, the computer from the Iron Man films, and Sherlock from, well, Sherlock, the BBC series. I see words in front of me all the time, dancing around like captions in front of people for when they're talking, or as descriptions of my thoughts or of objects. I think and see words. It's part of the reason why I can be a pretty good writer, because they are such an integral part of how I see the world. I really hope this is making sense and helps you to understand how I think a little bit. I mean, obviously, Mum, you get my brain pretty well because you've spent enough time trying to explain it to other people. But it's nice to come to these realizations yourself. I hope I've not gone on too much, and hopefully I can edit this into something that will at least be slightly coherent. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to help myself to a couple of these sweeties and stand up because my leg has just gone numb and I can't take much more of this. Ooh, fuckity, fuckity, fuck. I love you both, and I hope to see you very soon. I'll call you on Sunday. Tatty byes.